today we'll start with our next aphorisms from aphorism 100 onwards. But first, there is a question regarding the aphorism 8. If someone accidentally was found out from checkup without any symptoms that he is a hepatitis B carrier, according to homeopathy, does he get disease as he does not have symptoms? Similarly, someone have tumor or cysts without any symptoms. In this case, she does not get disease. Whether we can say that the patient is diseased or not. If the question is that if the symptoms are not present, but there is some accidental finding, uh, there is some accidental finding of hypothyroidism, there is some accidental finding of some kind of tumor or some kind of some viral disease. So can we say that the patient is diseased or not? Now, here are some things to understand. Sometimes the accidental findings are of a remnant disease. For example, someone had tuberculosis and he was or she was given AKT, some kind of treatment, whichever is given for it. And after that treatment, every time he goes for some kind of X-ray, there is a shadow. There is some kind of nodule which is always seen. So in that case, it is basically a remnant of old disease. So in that case, we will not say that the patient has healed well. So if there may be a state of health, he is not having any symptoms in that case. He is not having any kind of trouble, if we say in that case. But we will say that it has not healed completely. Similarly, if someone had some kind of boils or eruptions, but some kind of medicine was given, something was applied, and they have disappeared. Now there are some small spots, the remnant spots of the disease. So we will not say that the disease is gone. It might have changed its, you know, symptoms into some other kind of, or some has gone latent. So in those cases, we will say that the patient is still diseased if we get this thing with them. But now we are coming that there was nothing like this, and suddenly, accidentally, someone went for some test and they got this thing. Now we use the word accidentally. The accident was made by us, not by the body. Regarding the cells, regarding the tissues, the two type of basic functions are always going on. That is the growth of the cells and the death of the cells. It is a natural process. So these tumors and these things, they are very naturally occurring phenomena which are going on all the time. Every time you are basically suffering from a viral fever, the kind of fever we usually say that it is a viral fever. The people are suffering. Suddenly, the fever of some unknown origin has come and it is going on. After 4 or 5 days, you start feeling well. Usually, it is some kind of endodermal tumor or old mesodermal tumor which is healing at that time. So these things, these phenomena are very common. They keep on happening and they keep on resolving on themselves. The problem arises when the body or the vital force is not able to resolve itself. Okay, so these things are basically accidentally happening. So when we say that things are happening or these things are found accidentally and without any symptoms, these are the normal going ons in the body. Regarding the hepatitis, any viral condition which is happening, what we are doing, how we are testing them, we are basically testing the antibodies of the body. So we are basically assuming that there is a viral action on the body towards which the body has produced some antibodies. Okay, this is our theory of looking at the viral disease. No one has ever actually seen any kind of virus. There is no this thing. So there is an assumption of the virus that some things are happening which are infectious, and there is something at a very minute level, at the level of some RNA and this thing, that something is infecting everyone. And but what we are seeing is the antibodies of that reaction. So antibodies are basically our cells, the normal cells of body, which are increased in the number because of something which has happened. Let's not go into what has happened, but let's see is like that they are the normal cells of the body. The antibodies are the normal cells of the body. They are usually also present up to certain level, and then certain kind of immunoglobulin, certain kind of antibodies are basically increased at some special events, and from there we start telling that if this antibody or if this immunoglobulin is increased, or this kind of thing has come, then the patient might be suffering from hepatitis B, he might be suffering from some other viral disease. So there is this assumption. The whole viral theory is basically based, if you read it more in depth. So the whole viral theory is basically based on a normal biochemistry of the body, a normal biochemistry which has increased to certain levels. It has extended or it has exceeded certain levels, but it is the biochemistry of the body. Like in bacteria, we can see the bacteria in the tissue. In the case of fungus, in the case of some parasites, we can see them. But here there is nothing to see under the microscope or even with the naked eye. Whatever is happening in that thing, whatever we are basically giving the name to a disease, it is only the calculated number of our own biochemistry. Yes, there may be some symptoms associated, there may be something which is happening, but then it can be something else also. It can be something else also. So coming back to the question, that in these kind of findings, that hepatitis or some kind of other viral diseases, but there is no symptom at all. These are just the accidental findings. Okay, so the word is that they are accidental. We have caused the accident. The body didn't give any sign that it is diseased. So this we have to understand. The body never gave any sign of the disease. There are some signs, yes, we should give the remedy. There are no signs, then we must accept and understand that whatever is happening, you know, it might be some kind of reaction, the body will take care of it. If there is no need to show the symptom, that means the body does not need any physician. The body can take care of itself. But when we start, doing something, I've seen so many cases, the patient was completely okay, no problem, no problem at all, at least not of that part. There might be problem with some other part, but then they went through the test and they did this thing, and they found some tumor out at some distant part of the body. For example, the problem was with the abdomen, but the tumor was found in the you can say the lungs, or in the pancreas, or some sorry, not pancreas, but for example in the lungs. So they start with the radiotherapy and chemotherapy and all. We start with that thing, and the patient starts deteriorating, who was okay. There was no problem with that. That there was no trouble regarding that kind of the thing. So we as a physician has to listen to the body. That whenever body requires a physician, okay, those are the words which we have just gone through in the Organon, that the body tells, the vital force tells through sign and symptoms that it needs a physician. It is as clear as that. Okay, so many times it comes to the mind that what should be done then in such cases. The patient comes to you with this thing accidentally. Yes, keep a check on the patient, keep a check on the patient, but listen to the body. The body has not yet required you. If in future the body requires you, we should be available. But if the body does not require us, then let the body give the time to heal itself, whatever has come up. Okay? So this is very important to understand. I think I'm clear with the answer on the question. So we'll start with the aphorism 100. So aphorism 100. In investigating the totality of the symptoms of epidemic and sporadic diseases. So, so till now, the case taking was a general. I'll just give you a simple thing about the how the organon has been written. Uh, what was the planning? So Dr. Hahnemann starts with a common principle, a common rule which is told that it has to be done like this. Because from now on, in the practical part, we will see that kind of planning which will be going on. So he will give us a proper, common, a general principle which is always to be followed. Okay, that is a general principle regarding that thing, and it is always to be followed. Then there are sub principles according to some conditions, according to some situations, according to different types of diseases, according to different types of patients, according to different types of medicines. There will be some sub principles. So those sub principles never overpower the main principle. This is stable. These things can change according to the situations, according to the conditions, what kind of disease is there, whether it is a mental disease, whether it is a physical disease, whether it is an epidemic, whether it is some pure acute miasm, whether it is a chronic miasm. So according to that, there will be some things which will change. But this main principle, the way the case taking is to be done, that will be same. But in those sub principles, in those sub situations, Dr. Hahnemann basically gives us an insight what we can look for more extra in comparison to that thing. What we can do something more in these situations as compared to that thing. So this thing has to be kept in mind that the organon, because many times, even when I was in Thailand, we had this discussion over the same thing, over the repetition of the dose. So because many times, when we are going through the organon, we read the principle, okay, this is written, but when there is something contradictory thing to that thing, we take it that, okay, this can also be done instead of this. No, it is not like that. There are some situations where that can be done, but this principle remains like this. And even on those particular places, he has mentioned those situations. Like, for example, in investigating the totality of symptoms of the epidemic and sporadic disease. In this situation, when an epidemic is going on or some sporadic disease is going on, we have done the definition of this in aphorism, I think 72 or 73. Okay, so those definitions have to be kept in mind, that what is an epidemic, that when the causation is the same and the whole process which is going on, the whole process of the disease which is going on in each and every patient is same, that is called as the epidemic. And sporadic disease, which is because of the changing environment, changing weather, changing this thing, and the people are getting affected in different pockets of the population. It is not an epidemic that the whole population is basically diseased, but yes, there are some pockets in the population which are getting diseased. It is quite immaterial whether or not something similar has ever appeared in the world before under the same or any other name. So see how Dr. Hahnemann is starting the thing, because this is the first mistake which we do in the epidemic or sporadic diseases. For example, now in this season, or I can say 1 month back, when the rainy season was just ending, dengue is very prominent at that time. Earlier it was malaria, now it is dengue. It is a sporadic disease, dengue. So he's saying that it is of no matter, it does not mean anything whether anything of such name has ever appeared or not in the world. Don't keep the name in the mind, because when it starts, the platelets are decreasing, people are falling sick, there is some fever going on, some weakness is going on. So everyone, okay, dengue is going on, dengue, take eupatorium perfolatum, okay, take that medicine, because we are keeping the name of the disease in the mind. Similarly, in the epidemics, we should not keep the name of the disease in the mind. Every time it is something new. So it is quite immaterial whether or not something similar has ever appeared in the world before under the same or any other name. It is of no matter, it is of no importance that whether something like this has ever appeared or not appeared. The novelty or peculiarity of a disease of that kind makes no difference either in the mode of examining or of treating it. What kind of peculiarity of the disease is there, what is its name, it makes no difference in how we have to examine it or how we have to treat it, as the physician must anyway regard the pure picture of every prevailing disease. The word is pure picture. Pure picture means how it is appearing without keeping any prejudice about the old epidemic, about the old sporadic disease. So it is the work of the physician, it is the duty of the physician to take the pure picture as it is appearing right now, as it is coming to us right now. Even in the same patient, if for example the patient came to you with dengue last year, and this year also is coming with some kind of fever, and the doctors have described that he is suffering from dengue, don't repeat him the medicine which you have given last year. We have to take the pure picture right now, what is going on there. If at last it ends in the same medicine, okay, no problem, but usually it does not happen. Usually it does not happen. If we have started with the same medicine, and usually it does not happen that it will fall under the same condition, then we would have wasted 3 or 4 days of the patient, 5 days, and he has started becoming more weak, and we then wonder that why the medicine has not worked. So it is better that when the patient comes, we take the pure picture at that time only of every prevailing disease as if it were something new and unknown. This thing is very important. Whenever we are investigating something, we have to investigate from a state of unknown, that we don't know anything about it. Whatever we know, we have to just you know rub it off, that this is something new and I don't know anything about it, and investigate it thoroughly for itself. If he desire to practice medicine in real and radical manner, if we want to practice medicine in a real manner, how it should be practiced in a radical manner, then this is the way. Never substituting conjecture for actual observation. We cannot substitute the conjecture, something which we have read somewhere, something which we have heard about somewhere, something which we have not actually seen happening in front of us, or something which is not happening right now, but I am imagining that okay, it might be the same thing. He might be suffering from the same thing which he was suffering from uh, in the last year. So when a real physician, when he is basically taking a case, he will never substitute the actual observation, what he is observing, with a conjecture, never taking for granted that the case of disease before him is already wholly or partially known. Okay, even we cannot say that okay, some things I know from the past and new things I will find. We don't know anything. No, partially, we don't know it partially, we don't know it completely. We are just in the state of unknown, we are just working from that state, but always carefully examining it in all its phases. And this mode of procedure is all the more requisite in such cases. If we keep on repeat, for example, if I give some patient medicine and the patient is not getting well, if I keep repeating on the same thing, just modifying some things, I will keep getting the same result. I will not get something new. For getting something new, I have to be new. I have to become new. And only way of becoming new is to forget everything which we know and start from there. So same is with the case taking. Even the patient is coming to you for the 10th time, for the 20th time. Go to that state that I don't, and I have to start from new. Everything is to be asked from the new. And this mode of procedure is all the more requisite in such cases, as a careful examination will show that every prevailing disease in many respects a phenomena of a unique character. And when we use this procedure, when we go with that thing, when we when we are carefully examining the things, we will see that every phenomena, every epidemic, every sporadic disease, every thing which is happening, it has some phenomena of unique character, differing vastly from all the previous epidemics, to which certain names has been falsely applied. There are some false names which are given to those. Why false? Because every epidemic was unique. There was always something unique, but the old names are being given to it. With the exception of those epidemics resulting from a contagious principle that always remain the same, such as a smallpox or measles. Okay, but in those kind of epidemics where the contagious principle remains the same, like the smallpox or measles, then at that time, yes, okay, we call it a smallpox or measles. But again, this does not say that okay, we can give the same medicine to smallpox every time or the measles every time. No, even in smallpox or measles, when the epidemic comes or when the children have them, there are different characters. The phenomena is different. This is to be kept in mind. Now this is the thing where some people either they misunderstand the thing or they manipulate these things to sell some medicines. This is how it happens. They will take this part that okay, he has said that in smallpox and measles it is okay. He has not said that it is okay to give the same medicine in each attack. He has very clearly said this thing in the beginning, that is a sub part of it. Sub part cannot replace the main part. So he has already said that any kind of epidemic, whether it is of even of smallpox or measles, any kind of epidemic, we have to investigate thoroughly. We have to investigate it as a new and unknown thing. If there would have been this kind of thing that okay, there can be one remedy for smallpox or measles, Dr. Hahnemann would have written it. He would have written it. He would have written in this aphorism only that okay, in smallpox give this medicine and measles give this medicine. That is not there. If he had the intelligence to go through to write this whole organon, go through all the pain to uh, discover homeopathy, the law of similia, and the this law of individuality and the law of the vital force and miasms, he could have written this very small thing. So this is again a sub this thing that okay, in those cases the name is okay, the smallpox or measles, because it is okay, the name is okay, because the contagious principle is the same, but not we cannot take it okay in the cases of smallpox start giving belladonna or zincum metallicum or this or that. He has already written that in any kind of epidemic we have to investigate it thoroughly, whatever its name is, does not matter. So aphorism 101, it may easily happen that in the first case of an epidemic disease that presents itself to the physician's notice, he does not at once obtain a knowledge of its complete picture, as it is only by a close observation of several cases of very such collective disease that he can become conversant with the totality of its signs and symptoms. So, what happens in an epidemic disease is, for example, one patient, the first patient which came to you, he started getting affected, like 3 days back. So we have a picture of a development of a disease of 3 days. The next patient who comes, he has a development of 5 days. The next patient who comes, he has a development of 6 days. So every patient who is coming to us, then the fourth one come, he has just started with it. Just one day has gone by or few hours have gone by. So he's saying that it may easily happen that in the first case of an epidemic disease that presents itself to the physician notice, he does not at once obtain a knowledge of its complete picture. Like in the first case, it is okay that we might not get the complete picture of the disease, as it is only by a close observation of several cases of every such collective disease that he can become conversant with the totality of its signs and symptoms. So when we have gone through many cases of different developments, then only we have a collective picture, then we have a complete picture. What complete picture the patient is having, basically. Okay, then we start getting. I'll come back to this. There is a question that what does the contagious principle resulting from a contagious principle that always remains the same? So what does the contagious principle means in this? Like when we started with the organon, this was the first thing which I shared with you, which I spoke about, that there is many places where the Dr. Hahnemann will use the word contagious, contagion, infection. Okay, don't take it in the meaning what we know from the pathological point of view. Contagious means that it is happening from one person to the other, and then the other, then the other, then the other, then the other, then the other. Okay, so the contagious principle means the way of getting contagion, that everyone is getting the contagion in the same way. It is not different. Okay, the initial few days are same, but then there can be some different you know um, developments which we can see. So those initial few days, if when we talk about the smallpox or measles, they have a way of developing. Like mostly we say that measles, there is some thrush which comes first and then it spreads on the body. So that is a contagious principle, that there is a proper way of developing of these diseases, smallpox, measles, chickenpox, these kind of diseases. They have a proper way of development, or you can say a similar way of development, but then it can go into something else with 60 or 70% similar way. There will be 30%, 20%, 10% something which is not, sorry, which is unique to this kind of epidemic, this particular epidemic, sorry. So the contagious means that it is getting infected. Okay, coming back to the 101. The carefully observing physician can, however, from the examination of even the first and second patients, often arrive so nearly at a knowledge of the true state as to have in his mind a characteristic portrait of it, and even to succeed in finding a suitable homeopathically adapted remedy for it. So patient who is carefully observing, Dr. Henneman has never, there's one, some things which uh, they strike you. Dr. Henneman has never written an experienced physician can, however, from the examination of even the first and second patients, because Dr. Henneman never uh, thought of experience in the terms of time. We say that we have 35 years of experience. I have 15 years of experience. I have 20 years of experience. Okay. See, he has very, in one of the aphorism I think we have done, or we will do in the future aphorism. He basically said that I don't consider that thing as an experience. 35 years of doing something wrong does not make you experienced. So you will never find that of an experienced physician can, however, do this thing. He will always say the carefully observing physician. You might be seeing the case for the first time. This might be your life's first patient. And if you're carefully observing, you're carefully applying the laws, if you are carefully applying the principles from the first or second patients, the examination of them, you can get to the medicine. Even in the first patient, you can get to the medicine if you're carefully observing. Okay, so he has told both the things that sometimes we cannot get it from the first 2 or 3 patients the complete picture, but yes, sometimes if you're carefully observing, the physician is carefully observing, he can from the first or second patient often arrive so nearly at a knowledge of the true state. What is the true state of the disease? What is the symptoms, the array of symptoms? What are the characteristics in the disease? And how I can prescribe on these characteristics? In his mind, a characteristic portrait of it. What are the characteristic portrait? And even to succeed in finding a suitable homeopathically adapted remedy for it. And he can also find when the characteristic portrait is there, the materia medica, then we can match very easily. In the course of writing down the symptoms of several cases of this kind, the sketch of the disease picture becomes ever more and more complete, not more spun out and verbose, but more significant, more characteristic, and including more of the peculiarities of this collective disease. So, in the course, like we are seeing the patients in those kind of epidemics, when we have written down the symptoms of the several cases. So, this sketch of the picture, the whole development of the picture at the different stages we have at that, it becomes more significant and more characteristic the more we keep collecting that thing. So there will be many peculiarities of this disease which are collective. So all this thing, this array of the symptom, it becomes a collective picture of the complete disease. On one hand, the general symptoms, for example loss of appetite, sleeplessness, etc., become precisely defined as to their peculiarities. Almost all the acute diseases or the diseases, when they are gradually increasing, the appetite is disturbed, that sleep is disturbed, the thirst is disturbed, you know sometimes stool and urine, the general symptom, they are disturbed. But the more we will look into these kind of cases, the more patients we see at that time, these will start showing some peculiarities. For example, the appetite is not good in the afternoon, or there is an easy satiety, or there is some nausea with when they look at the food. So some kind of peculiarities, they will start becoming more precise. And on the other hand, the more marked and special symptoms, which are peculiar to but few diseases and of rare occurrence, at least in the same combination, become prominent and constitute what is characteristic of this malady. And the symptoms which usually do not come with these kind of diseases. For example, the smallpox is there or some chicken pox is going on. But then there are some symptoms which commonly come, but then there are some symptoms which usually don't come. For example, there is a smallpox going on, but there is that after few days of chicken pox or measles, there is this jerking which starts in the leg, the jerking of the extremities. This will make it more prominent. This will give us a more prominent picture of the disease and constitute what is characteristic of this malady. So this will give us a characteristic of that thing. All those affected with the disease prevailing at a given time have certainly contracted it from one and the same source, and hence are suffering from the same disease. Okay, again going back to the definition of the epidemic is that causation is same and the suffering is same. That is why one medicine is to be found which can cure everyone, because the disease phenomena is same. So this will tell us that they have got it from the same source and hence are suffering from the same disease. But the whole extent of such an epidemic disease and the totality of its symptoms, the knowledge whereof, which is essential for enabling us to choose the most suitable homeopathic remedy for this area of symptom, is obtained by a complete survey of the morbid picture. So the main thing is that we cannot just decide on few patients what is the genus epidemicus, which people did in the COVID time. Many doctors during the COVID time, they didn't even saw the patient. I know some doctors, who did this because of the fear of getting infection. They didn't saw any patient, but they reached at a genus epidemicus. They found a remedy for the epidemic because they didn't knew the definition of the epidemic. They didn't knew it, that the disease picture is same. That is why I think during that time I had taken a, I think, online class during that time, and that is the first thing which I told the doctors and gave some instructions during that time, that how it should be done. It is a sporadic disease, and we have to see these things. Don't take it as an epidemic and keep giving arsenic or camphor or something like this. They just listened online what kind of symptoms are coming, and they started making a genus that is completely against what is written, completely against. It is not a true picture of the disease. We have to find the true picture of the disease, and it cannot be found until we see patient in those conditions. If we are, if we ourselves are so afraid of getting the infection, then it is better, okay, to be at home, not see patient, and not give any instructions how to cure them. So cannot be learned from one single patient. The main thing to understand is that the complete picture cannot be learned from one single patient. Even if you find the right remedy on one single, and it started working on the first patient, the second, and the third, but still we need to keep on increasing our knowledge of those symptoms which are going on, because maybe at some stage we need to change the remedy, or at least we can become more assured that the remedy is right, but is only to be perfectly deduced and ascertained from the sufferings of several patients of different constitutions. So we have to ascertain it from the several kind of the sufferings which are going on in the patients, according to the development, the hourly development, the development in the days, the development in the weeks, and then we start understanding the whole picture of whole array of symptoms. So there's a footnote: the physician who has already in the first cases been able to choose a remedy approximating to the homeopathic specific will, from the subsequent cases, be enabled either to verify the suitableness of the medicine chosen, or to discover a more appropriate, the most appropriate homeopathic remedy. Like I said just before, that even if in the first case or the second case we were able to choose a remedy which is making the patients better, so we can by collecting the symptoms in the developed stages or the different developments, we can verify the suitableness of our medicine, that okay, this is the right remedy, everything is falling in, all the new symptoms are falling in, all the new characteristics are falling in, or we can discover a more appropriate remedy. Okay, these things are not falling in, let me find a remedy which can cover all those things, and start giving that remedy out. In the same manner as has here been taught relative to the epidemic diseases, which are generally of an acute character, the miasmatic chronic maladies, which, as I have shown, always remain the same in their essential nature, especially the sora, must be investigated as to the whole sphere of their symptoms. So he's saying that the same manner, like I have told you about the epidemic diseases, when it comes to the chronic diseases, the chronic situations, in that case also, because as we have understood that all the symptoms, all the things which we call by different names, the tuberculosis, the um, hypothyroidism, the diabetes, the hypertension, this urethritis, the renal stone, whatever it is, they're just the different symptoms of sora. That is the greater developments of the sora. So he's saying that in the same manner, because in the chronic maladies, they are suffering from the fundamental cause, the fundamental miasmatic cause, which is sora. So we have to investigate in the same manner as to the picture of the sora, that how the sora is existing, because the first thing is that it makes us understand the different developments of sura. Because when we will be looking at the medicines, the similumum, then we have to match that development, how the sura has developed. The remedy which matches the whole development will cure the sura. The remedy which matches just one part of the development, some secondary symptoms or tertiary symptoms, it will just treat those symptoms, but the sura will remain as such. That is why the discovery of the miasm, Dr. Hahnemann said that it is the very, very, very important discovery after homeopathy. This is the most important discovery. And homeopathy can never be complete, or the cures can never be given in the causes in the chronic diseases if we don't understand this theory. As we move forward deep, although I have talked many times about the sura, but as we go more deeper in the aphorisms, and then the aphorisms on the miasm will come, then we will discuss it in more detail. But right now, what Dr. Hahnemann is saying in aphorism 103 is that in the similar way, whenever the chronic patients, the patients with chronic diseases they come, we have to understand that this is all the development of sura, and we have to investigate it, and we have to understand it. How many symptoms the sura can show as to the whole sphere of their symptoms. So the investigation is to be done in the whole sphere, every symptom, where the symptoms are coming in a much more minute manner. Epidemic is of recent origin. Chronic diseases are going from so long. So we have to go into minute of the details which we can come up with. Minute manner than has ever been done before. For in them only one patient, for in them also one patient only exhibits a portion of their symptoms. So a patient is only showing the portion of the one development of the sura. A second and third and so on present some other symptoms, which also are but a disturbed, as it were, portion of the totality of the symptoms, which constitute the entire extent of this malady. So all the patients, when we are looking at them, their symptoms, this will show us the entire extent of the sura, that how many development the sura can take, the different kind of developments, so that the whole area of the symptoms belonging to such a miasmatic chronic disease, and especially to the sura, can only be ascertained from the observation of very many single patients affected with such a chronic disease, and without a complete survey and collective picture of these symptoms, the medicines capable of curing the whole malady homeopathically, to wit the antisorics, cannot be discovered, and these medicines are at the same time the true remedies of the several patients suffering from such chronic affection. So Dr. Hahnemann is trying to say that if we don't do it like this, we will not be able to find the antisorics, the simillimums of the patients. Why he's used the word antisoric? Because simillimum is also in the acute case, simillimum is also in the epidemic cases or any other cases. Simillimum means similar to the symptoms. Antisoric means a remedy which can cure sora. So he has used a different word for that thing, an antisoric. So he's saying that until and unless we, without a complete survey and collective picture, we will not be able to discover that antisoric. And because that antisoric is very important to find that antisoric, because that is a true remedy of many patients suffering from such chronic affections. These are the true remedies, these antisorics. So I will just clear one or two things right here, right now. Antisorics are not something different. It is not that the bryonia is the acute remedy and it cannot be an antisoric remedy. Any remedy can be an antisoric remedy if it shows that particular development of a disease. So there are not some remedies which are antisorics and some which are antipsychotics. No. Any remedy can be antisoric, any remedy, but it should be simillimum to those developments of the sura. Second thing, why this aphorism, or what is the meaning behind this aphorism? There is a superficial understanding of the aphorism, then there is a deep understanding of whatever is written. when we are seeing the patients, but our mind is focused on, in the back of the mind, we are focused uh, on the disease. The patient is having Alzheimer, the patient is Parkinson, the patient is having some cancer, or the patient is having some kind of epileptic. So we are, looking at the disease. I will just tell you, right now, the patient is going good. Maybe whatever, I'm very sure about the remedy which we have given to the patient, but I'll just tell you how the whole thing basically starts affecting our thinking. So we had a patient. He's from Thailand, a boy of Tourette syndrome. And Dr. Jonkul, Dr. Sobis, and Dr. Fujira, they know about the case. So we gave some remedies. In the initially, there were some characteristics about the disease. Like for example, there is a symptom that there was this convulsion and rage which were alternating when the episode is coming. The convulsion is coming, then the patient will go into rage, and then the convulsion will increase, and then the rage will increase. So this alteration was going on. So it's a very characteristic thing. You don't see this kind of thing usually in convulsions. So when you see the remedy for that, the only remedy is stramonium. So we gave him the stramonium. For a few days he was better. Then he came back to the, wherever he was, he came back to that state. The next time again we look at that, that he would had this arrested breathing, and then some other factors also. Then we took that thing, and the rage part also, we combined that, and we gave him Nux vomica. No, sorry, I think Cupromet. So he again was better for 1 day, 2 day, and then again the disease started. So then you stop that, okay, my approach is not working. Whatever I'm doing, I'm taking the characteristics, but those are not working. So what is the mistake which I'm doing? I'm just sharing an experience. So in the third meeting when we talked about it, because the parents are also, they are also afraid, and everything is going on. So sometimes it puts, or the physician takes an immense pressure from the state that he is not able to cure, and it usually comes to everyone, whoever is doing his or her work sincerely. We will have that state by that, why I'm not able to give relief to the patient, why the medicine is not working, why something. But then again, that is a state where we can learn also, and we can look at what mistake we were doing. So there was something that I was very sure that I'm making a mistake, because the result is not coming. So first of all, the stage is to accept the mistake, that the approach which I'm going through is not right. Let's start again. So what was the mistake? Then I started, studying about the patient. That he is basically, whenever this state happens from the bad mood, or the patient is not feeling well, he's irritable, he's angry, he's very oversensitive to the cold weather. Even if she switches on the fan, he will start sneezing, or some other symptom will start coming. Very neat, very perfectionist. He will keep everything organized. He does not want anything out of the way. Bad temperament, irritable, gets angry easily. Anger can go into rage also. So then we gave him Nux vomica, and after one, because I don't have a longer follow up, I will maybe have follow up tomorrow, or maybe next week. But uh, if Dr. Fujira is present and she has talked, she can tell us more about it. Because the first 1 week follow up was good after Nux vomica, and it was for the first time, I think, that the medicine has acted for that long. Again, I'm telling, maybe we have to change, maybe we don't have to change, but I have learned one thing, that what was the mistake there, that I was taking the characteristic of the disease, ignoring the patient, because those characteristics seem to be very important, but those are of the disease, of the convulsions. But when we took the characteristics of the patient, We came back, forget the disease. Okay. There is just forget that the convulsions are there. Forget about it and focus on the patient. What are the characteristics of the patient? So that is when you switch from the particular characteristics to the general characteristics. And this tells you which are more important. The general characteristics are more important or the particular characteristics are more important. This is the difference between what Dr. Hahnemann is trying to tell us here, and he will keep doing it throughout the Organon. That some things are to be kept in the mind always. They have to be kept in the mind till they get absorbed in your subconscious and you start behaving that way. We start behaving that way that whatever you are seeing, the symptoms, they're just of one disease, that is Sura. You have to trace the picture of that. Don't compartmentalize the brain into, different diseases. Then we will have, we will be more focused on the disease. So on that day, when I was talking with the mother, the doctors were there, and I was sitting, and this thing came to the mind that okay, forget about Tourette syndrome and forget about the convulsion. There is nothing like this. Just focus on the information regarding the patient. So that is the only way how we can tap into the Sora and find an anti-soric. A remedy, a homeopathic remedy which can cure the Sora. And until and unless we don't find such a remedy, these kind of diseases we will not be able to cure. We cannot cure it. You can just give relief, or even the relief will not be there. So that is why this aphorism is there, that when we are going through the different patients, different chronic diseases, patients suffering from different kind of chronic disease, just keep a look on how extensive is Sora, so that we can know about it, so that we can know about that one disease. We can understand that there is only one disease, and it has an innumerable kind of symptoms are there which are present. So when the totality of the symptoms that specially mark and distinguish the case of disease, or in other words, when the picture of the disease, whatever be its kind, we don't have to worry about the kind, is once accurately sketched, the most difficult part of the task is accomplished. So when we have taken the totality of the symptoms, we have marked and distinguished the case of the disease, and the picture of disease is taken, the accurate sketch is taken, the task is accomplished. The physician has done the picture of the disease, especially if it be of a chronic one, always before him to guide him in his treatment. So the main thing is to do that hard work on the first day, on the first time, so that we don't have to do it again. We have the whole picture of the disease. Now we will go further. We can investigate it in all its parts and pick out the characteristic symptoms. So he has given a small indication of what we have to pick out. From the whole totality of the symptoms, we don't need to put the whole totality in our laptops or in our repertories. We can pick out the characteristic symptoms. In order to oppose to these, that is to say, to the whole malady itself, a very similar artificial morphic force in the shape of a homeopathically chosen medicinal substance selected from the list of symptoms of all the medicines whose pure effects has been ascertained, so that we can find a homeopathic remedy which is similar to these characteristic symptoms from all the medicines. And when during the treatment he wishes to ascertain what has been the effect of the medicine and what change has taken in the patient's state, at this fresh examination of the patient, he only needs to strike out of the list of the symptoms noted down at the first visit those that have been enumerated, to mark what still remains and add any new symptoms that may have supervened. So when the next follow-up comes, when we say that the medicine's effect has taken place, so in the fresh examination, in the next follow-up is also fresh examination, we start asking what is better, what is still remaining there, and any other new symptoms which has come forward. So he will strike out. So he's saying that, okay, cross out the symptoms which are gone, mark the symptoms which are still there, and any new symptoms, we write them down. Footnote to Aphorism 104. The old school physician gave himself very little trouble in this matter, in this mode of treatment. He's saying that the old school physicians, they don't do it like this. He would not listen to any minute detail of all the circumstances of his case by the patient. Usually the doctor, okay, what is happening? Fever is there. Okay, BP is this. Any other trouble? Okay, gastric trouble. Okay, this is the medicine. So he's saying that they don't go into the minutest details of the circumstances. Indeed, he frequently cut him short in his relation of his sufferings in order that he might not be delayed in the rapid writing of his prescription. Even if the patient is trying to explain that these are okay, no problem, no problem. Let me write the prescription for you. So he will cut him in his relation to his sufferings so that he can write the prescription rapidly, and it should not be delayed, composed of a variety of ingredients unknown to him in their true effects. And the variety of ingredients which are written, they are unknown. The action on the human body is unknown. What kind of action it will produce? No allopathic physician, as has been said, sought to learn all the minute circumstances of the patient's case, and still less did he make a note in writing of them. They don't want to know about in what circumstances the causations, how it has happened, what circumstances were there, any kind of worries, any kind of stress, any kind of, you know, physical exertion or something like this has happened. On seeing the patient again several days after, he recollected nothing, because he says that because he has not written anything, so he does not recollect what has happened. He recollected nothing concerning the few details he had heard at the first visit, having in the meantime seen so many other patients laboring under different affections. So partly because he has seen so many patients, and partly he has not written it, so he does not remember what had happened to him in the first time. He had allowed everything to go in at one ear and out at the other. So he has allowed something which has gone from in from one ear and out at the other. At subsequent visits, he only asked a few general questions, went through the ceremony of feeling the pulse at the wrist, looked at the tongue, and at the same moment wrote another prescription on equally irrational principles, or ordered the first one to be continued in considerable quantities several times a day. So he said that on every visit he is just going through the ritual of checking the chest, checking the pulse, checking the tongue, and rewriting some another prescription in the same meaning without ever knowing what is has happened, or ordering the first one to be continued. He will ask that, okay, are you getting better? Yes. Okay, then continue it. If you're not getting better, then add something. And with a graceful bow, he hurried off to the 50th or 60th patient he had to visit. Because at that time, the physicians would visit the patients. The patients are coming to the clinics or hospitals. But at that time, the physicians would go to the bedside of many patients, because there were no means to bring the patients at that time. The people usually do not have the means. He had to visit in this thoughtless way in the course of that forenoon. The profession, which of all others requires actually the most reflection, a conscientious, careful examination of the state of each individual patient, and a special treatment founded thereon, was conducted in this manner by persons who called themselves physicians, rational practitioners. So he's saying that the profession which requires a lot of reflection, you need to think about what is happening, a very conscientious, very diligent, very careful examination, that how the disease is going on, and what is happening, and a special treatment has to be founded which covers all those symptoms, which can cure all those symptoms, that kind of treatment. And nothing, this should be done, but it was conducted in a very different manner by the physicians which called themselves rational practitioners. Because at that time, the physicians who used to practice like this, they were called rational practitioners. Allopathy was the word coined by Dr. Hahnemann. If some of you don't know, then this is a thing that the allopathy was given the word was given by Dr. Hahnemann. So if we are today using the word allopathic or allopathic medicines or allopathy, it is a word which was given by Dr. Hahnemann. It didn't existed before. The result, as might naturally be expected, was almost invariably bad. So when the practice was done in that way, we can just expect that it will be a bad result. And yet patients had to go to them for advice because there was no other option. Partly because there were none better, no other better option was there to be had, partly for fashion's sake. Fashion means that it is a trend going on. So because of those two things, the physician had to do that. Sorry, patients had to do that thing. So this is a state which was happening at that time. Some things might have changed, but many things are like that. There might, yes, there are some practitioners who are very good. I've seen some of the doctors who are not homeopath, who are practicing some allopathic medicines or some other medicines also. They care about patient. They know, they will ask about the circumstances, from how long it is happening, what kind of other thing. Although that will not help in the prescription, but at least they have this sympathy and care for them. They will console them, they will give them good advice, they will do something like this. There are some physicians who are like that, but yes, many, the way he has described, many are like that also. But okay, but that thing does not, but there is a scenario, sometimes the contrast is needed to understand some things. Some things good has to be told in contrast to something bad. You would keep telling him something good, 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 then, and the contrast is not there, then the good becomes kind of okay. We start taking that thing as granted. When there is light, the value of light cannot be known until we know the darkness. So that is something which sometimes, Dr. Hahnemann gives a pinch of salt to have, so that we can understand the other part. So from the next aphorism or onwards, we will start with the provings, how the medicine is to be proved and all those things. So that will start from aphorism 105. So we'll start it on next Wednesday. We will stop today's class on Organon right here. Again, there are, if any questions, there was this question on contagious principle, which I think I have answered well. If still there is some question, still there is something which was some problem to understand it, you can again message me or message Dr. Jonkol or Dr. Rishabh or anyone. And next class and next we will start with a discussion of that. So thank you very much and have a very good night.